Hey everyone, and welcome back. Now today I want to go over a general market update just as we start out the week so we can kind of get a good sense of where things are at in crypto generally, both with Bitcoin as well as some of the major alts, kind of how things are setting to look up going into this bull run, all that type of stuff. So anyway, let's go ahead and dive right in. So starting out, what we can see is looking at the crypto bubbles for the day, things mostly negative. We do have a couple, or I guess several like moderately positives, but a couple kind of majorly positive coins that I think are kind of buoying the overall market, because we can see the market is generally either moderately up, mostly slightly down, and then a couple that are like kind of up pretty large. And so I think that's kind of what we're seeing here. If we do look at my quick market overview dashboard that I've built, we can see again open interest on a little bit of a pullback from where it was at its highs, but overall still just kind of exploding. Massive amounts of open interest and volume coming into the market. I think this is kind of what we thought was a possibility. I think it's happened probably on, like, if there's a spectrum, it's probably on the more optimistic or bullish of this side of the spectrum, just because we've seen a ton of really crazy things happen over the past several weeks. We can kind of see this here on the RSI heat map with a lot of various crypto tokens being within the overbought or strong range. We can see the market average is 64, almost getting up into the overall overbought. And so this is the point in time at which I'm kind of starting to think like, all right, well, we're probably going to be seeing some level of pullback here, maybe within the next week, maybe within the next couple days. You know, it's hard to say exactly, but whenever we see the market get into a position like this, usually we tend to see some level of pullback kind of following sometime thereafter. We will look at the chart. Technically speaking, the chart still is looking pretty good, but overall, you know, I do think kind of a lot of the market is starting to look overbought. We can see we are in extreme greed. We did actually come down from yesterday where we were at 93%, which is like massively extreme greed. So that's good. We also can see from the liquidation map, Bitcoin sitting about level, obviously favoring a move to the downside slightly, but overall relatively level. If we look at the 7-day, we are going to see much more favoring a move to the downside, but things are starting to even out a little bit more than what we've seen previously. So, you know, things starting to level out a little bit, which from like an argument of like making a move to the upside, probably a pretty good thing, because usually when leverage is super skewed one way or the other, usually it kind of favors a move in that direction. However, now that we're starting to see things level out a bit, it does at least seem to indicate to me that we could see a little bit of a move. What we are seeing is a general, I would say, rising sentiment that people are not thinking Bitcoin can break 100,000, and so there are some liquidations kind of piling up kind of right around that range and just above. So we're seeing a lot going on there. Now, looking at the Bitcoin chart specifically, we can see a couple of things in particular. Obviously, ever since the election, things going up really dramatically. But if we are to zoom in a little bit, we can see this blue line is 100,000. So we obviously came really close, creeped up to it. We started to kind of pull down a little bit, but we're seeing some wicks here at this lower side, basically from like 97.5 to like 96. Pretty strong liquidity here from what it's appearing, at least based off of the chart. So we could be seeing, you know, potentially another run up at 100,000 this week. It still kind of remains to be my opinion that I do think we're probably going to see a run up, maybe, you know, break over 100K a little bit, and then I do think we'll probably go into like a larger correction. Somewhere between maybe like 10 to 30% is probably what I'm thinking. I do think that, you know, things are starting to get a little bit hot. Obviously, retail interest is coming up. I think there's going to be a level of like a level of time where things are going to get a little, you know, a little bloody, a little red, shake people out a little bit, maybe even just be boring, so people kind of lose interest and go away again. A lot of that type of stuff I think is probably what's going to happen. Again, not financial advice. I have no idea, you know, what's going to happen for sure. I don't have a crystal ball, but that's kind of my opinion here. We can also see on the daily charts, Bitcoin has been in the overbought range for a pretty substantial amount of time now. And so, you know, things looking overbought, very strong. And so we probably need to be prepared for the possibility that we see a little bit of a pullback. Looking at Solana, we can see something very similar to. Solana has moved pretty similarly to Bitcoin, which is somewhat impressive given that it hasn't, that it's an altcoin. And usually during this point in the bull run, it's all about Bitcoin and everything else kind of bleeds to Bitcoin. Solana's done a fantastic job of kind of keeping up with that. We can see looking very similar, been overbought for quite a while now. We can see also up at this. This is not obviously 100,000, but this is Solana's previous all-time high in terms of price. So this is Solana's previous all-time high price, and we can see here, you know, things moving pretty reliably up here. Usually we've seen kind of a big candle, a little bit of like consolidation here, big candle. We've seen a little bit of consolidation here. So again, if history is to kind of repeat itself, we would probably be seeing a big candle here and then a little bit more of some consolidation. Again, hard to say for sure what's going to happen, but overall, the chart's looking really, really good. So despite the market dashboard kind of seeming to indicate that we might see a little bit of a pullback, the charts themselves looking pretty decent, obviously other than the RSI showing things kind of overbought. But if you are interested in trading Solana, Bitcoin, anything else for that matter, feel free to use my BTCC link in the description below. I have partnered with BTCC for the month because they are offering a 10% bonus on first-time deposits, which is a fantastic deal. So if you were to deposit, let's say $10,000, you would get a $1,000 bonus that you could then use to trade in addition to everything else that you've deposited in. This is also in addition to the bonuses of up to $10,055 per user that they do normally. So obviously a really, really great bonus. On top of that, we can see they've actually been around for 13 years, so kind of one of the originals in the space. So definitely been around for a long time, have the kind of credibility of longevity, which is good. We can see 300 plus crypto futures, up to 500x leverage. I personally don't ever do 500x and would not recommend it, but obviously if you're familiar with how to do that, then good for you, I guess, but that's not something I personally do. And then also no VPN or KYC necessary, which is a nice thing if that's something that you're worried about. So if you are interested, feel free to use the link in the description below and you can go on ahead and get signed up. Now moving on, we can see obviously overall charts looking really good. I wanted to move along and check out Bitcoin dominance, because this is kind of where we're starting to look at the point, or we're starting to get to the point in the market where we're getting to this little kind of a weird point in time, because Bitcoin's obviously moved up really well. Bitcoin continues to move up really well. We're expecting Bitcoin to very likely continue to move up, but there is going to be a point where Bitcoin dominance starts to go down. I mean, we could see here 2017, this is kind of when the alt season kicked off here. Bitcoin dominance crashes. Same thing here, 2020, we go into 2021 where we go into a huge alt season, Bitcoin dominance crashes. Same type of thing. And then obviously, we're in the bear market kind of here, and ever since there, kind of the last capitulations of last alt season, we've seen Bitcoin dominance slowly rise. Bitcoin essentially does well compared to everything else. And so we're getting to a point now where that's probably going to flip and we're going to start to see this come down. Obviously, it's been kind of hovering up at the 56 to 60% range for the past little while, so we haven't necessarily seen that start to flip yet, but I am kind of keeping my eye on this because this will start to happen, and when that does, I think that's really when we can kind of lock in on looking at alts and expecting alts to do really quite well. Some alts obviously have done very well so far, but I'm not really expecting too much out of alts, particularly smaller ones, until we start to see this come down and alts kind of start to make that move up. And so that's what I'm looking for. We also can see here on this is the total too. So this is basically crypto market cap excluding Bitcoin. And we can see if we jump in, let's zoom in a little bit closer, and then we'll go back to big where we talk about the Fibonacci levels. But what we can see here is we were sitting kind of down at this just shy of $1 trillion mark. We've obviously massively broken out of that. Things moving really well. We did kind of get caught up at this fib level here, have obviously broken out, doing quite well, but seeing a lot of wicks up in here, just essentially just a lot of choppiness. I think just trying to wash people out, liquidate people on trades, all this type of stuff. But we can see there's a couple different major points. So the blue lines are the lines of support and resistance that I've identified, and then obviously we've got the fib levels. So we'll get into the fib levels later. We can see here, this was the high that we reached in March, broke over that relatively easy, not too much of a concern there. We are kind of sitting in the middle between this level of now support and this level of possible resistance. This level of resistance, we can see if we kind of zoom out a little bit, these were kind of some of the local tops during the last bull run. And then we can see way up here at 1.7 trillion. This is the all-time highs of the market cap, not including Bitcoin, right? And so that's kind of the major levels that I'm looking at. To the downside, kind of the 1.27 trillion range. To the upside, 1.47 and then 1.7 trillion respectively. Now, if we zoom back out, let's take a look at fib levels. And actually, before we jump into fib levels, I did want to show, look at this. Absolutely amazing increase in volume. And that's part of the reason we've seen such a strong move to the upside, right? Huge increases in volumes. We have broken the highs that we saw back in March when we saw a similar run up. So obviously things looking good from a volume perspective as well. But looking at the fib extension levels, we can see obviously 1.7 trillion previous highs. So that's the 1618, we're looking at 2.48 trillion, and then 2618, 3.75 trillion. It's kind of my belief. Obviously, there's a lot of people who believe a lot of different things here. I think 1618 is a pretty comfortable target for us to look at. So this would be just shy of about a doubling in the market from where we are currently. I do think if things kind of go maybe at the the max bullish type of outcome, we could potentially see this 2618 and hitting the 3.75 trillion. I do think that would be kind of on the more optimistic and bullish side of things. I think things would have to play out maybe a little bit better than what the base case would be. So far, I would say they probably have kind of looked that way. So this is definitely like not totally out of reach, but I would say it's not like a certainty, at least in my mind. Like I said, this is probably like a more optimistic view of kind of things. From here, 3618 and 4236, I personally don't realistically expect to see anything at this level in this bull run. I think that's a little bit nuts. 5 trillion and almost 6 trillion seems to be a little bit aggressive, just kind of for how things are shaking up. Obviously, maybe there's a world in which there's a ton of buzz around AI, and so maybe like decentralized AI somehow kind of takes over, and by takes over, I mean like all of the like hype and things that we're seeing on like Nvidia, like that level of interest comes to decentralized AI potentially. I think something like that would have to happen, where we're just seeing just absolutely stupid amounts of money coming into the ecosystem to see something like this happen. So anyway, that's just kind of my opinion on where things stand right now. Hopefully the information in this video was useful. If it was, please do give me a like and subscribe. It really does help me out, particularly with continuing to grow my channel and getting pushed further in the YouTube algorithm so more people can see my stuff. Also, if you do have any comments, questions, concerns, anything like that, please do feel free to drop those in the comment section below. I do try to read and respond to all of them. So if you have anything you want me to see, that would be a great way to do so. So thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next video.